So, John, just the other day, you and I had a brief discussion about, and it was a little interesting because we talked about the fact that there are multiple ways to get out of a contract when you're on the buyer side, right? And we'll
Absolutely.
talk about that in a sec. But how many ways to get out if you're if you represent the seller? Because here's what's going on: sellers sell their property, and their neighbors say, "I would have paid you much more for that. Didn't you realize the market is so hot? You could have got much more than what you sold it for." They go to you as the agent and say, "John, get me out of the contract. I think I sold too cheap." And what do you say?
About the only way that I could see getting out, well, one of the ways that you probably could get out of a contract, a seller get out of a contract, is at the point where you get the list of repairs from the other side, you can refuse to do any repairs to that.
So you're kind of saying no without saying no. You're saying, okay, and that's a good point. That's probably the best way to handle it. But if your seller literally says, "John, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. I want out right now. I want out." How would you advise your seller?
I would advise them they're probably going to end up in mediation.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the bottom line. You're either going to end up with
Yeah,
mediation or some type
seller
of
seller just can't decide to change their mind after somebody's opened escrow and started down the path of hiring an inspector and everything else
right.
starts rolling forward. Decide, well, I changed my mind.
It just doesn't work like that, does it?
No,
But
you
again,
can't.
the buyer has how many? Let's see if we can figure them out. So we have the buyer under contract. What are some ways I can get out as a buyer?
As a due diligence period, depending if they have 10 days due diligence, and we know what due diligence is for us to get an inspection on the house, for that inspector to write up a list of all the things that he found and give it back to us, which point we're going to design a list of repairs that we're looking for. Now we're going to give that list of repairs to the seller, have the seller review them and give us an answer whether or not he's going to fix something, not fix something, or he's going to put glue of money in that pile to take care of it. Well, all that stuff takes place. The seller basically has no way of getting out of any of that. It's rolling forward.
Yes.
And if you try to get out of any of that, you've now disrupted all of that stuff that's going on and people that have been paid to do work. So not only are you putting yourself as a seller at risk of being sued in mediation, but you've now cost the buyer money.
As you said, the appraisal, the home
Everything.
inspection. Okay, so that's one way. Due diligence. What's the other way? How many other ways are
Oh,
there?
there's going to be loan contingency,
Long. Okay. Okay.
appraisal
Appraisal
contingency,
contingency. Okay.
due diligence,
Yep.
HOA. They have 5 days to review the HOA docs
Okay.
when they come in.
I think those are the main ones. There's other ways in the contract to get out. We won't discuss those now, but that's when you say those are the main.
Yeah.
So, as a buyer, I'm sitting there, and the seller, I want to buy your house, but you backed out of the deal. What recourse do I have as a buyer?
Mediation. Well, you've signed the contract that both parties have signed. If any disruption between the two parties, they have the right to take it to mediation.
So, you want to talk about specific performance a little bit? What does that entail?
What do you mean?
Well, you'll see it in the agreement. Specific performance basically says if I want to sue you for specific performance, you will sell me that home. You're it's almost you're being forced to sell the home. A deal's a deal, agreement is agreement. And again, we don't want to get into the whole legality of it, but it's in the contract. Specific performance requires you to sell that home. If you don't have a very, very good reason, and I've only seen a few people carry that to the max. In my entire long career of someone actually suing for a specific performance because it costs a lot of money to do that. And
Yeah, it's
it's
very
tough to
costly.
prove.
It's
It's
costly.
very tough to prove.
Tough to prove that they backed out of a contract.
Well, they come up with these reasons. I had an illness or whatever the case may be. Not I wanted to make 25,000 more, but that's what's going on now, right?
That's what's
You
going
see a
on.
lot of that.
That's that's the market we're in. That's the way real estate is being handled right now.
Yeah. So to wrap it up, be very careful when it comes to your seller backing out unless they have an absolute ironclad reason for doing so, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to that?
And honestly, as a buyer, just so you know, I don't necessarily you might have a contract put in place, but if you don't have escrow opened up, there's no reason why anybody should be doing anything because you haven't put any skin in the game yet. Is the contract really a contract? If the escrows haven't
No,
opened yet,
no, legally, no. Legally, no.
so legally,
No.
no, you don't have a contract. So if there's no escrow opened up, so it's a weekend, you send the documents on a Friday and they can't get the escrow. So nothing's opened up until Monday morning. So there's no contract
Well,
until
but-
Monday.
But here's where it gets a little bit dicey, a little bit complicated. Maybe we ought to talk about another video, but you said I have 2 days to put that money in, and now you want to say, where's, I don't have a contract. Because what's going on, you'll see people everyone signs, and then they'll jump into, the buyer will jump in and do the home inspection like within hours after the contract is signed. Why? Because they want to back out if they find something wrong before they put money in the escrow. I know it sounds kind of complicated.
Yeah,
but-
I forget. That's exactly what.
and the argument is, wait a minute, you told me I had 2 days to put my, so I would write something in all my agreements that says the clock doesn't start ticking until the money is in escrow,
escrow.
right?
There you
Okay.
go.
And what is that great verbiage you put in there for the appraisal? I love that. One more time on that deal.
For the appraisal, if the
No, I'm sorry, not the appraisal, the home is repair.
if the repair report that is given to the seller is not responded to within the time frame of the due diligence will be extended each day we don't have a response back from the seller.
Yeah, and I've seen that actually work magic in several cases so far. That you actually advised them on that. So what it means is every time.
A lot of sellers are in it to just try to get those 10 days past, not answer you and say you didn't get the stuff to them, so the EMD money is now mine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a way of protecting the EMD money and forcing them to respond.
Love that. All right. Hope you enjoyed that, and you certainly know, as far as letting the seller out of a deal, it's not that simple. Correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.